Well, hello everyone, and welcome to day 30 of 31 and 31. Officially, one more day left after this. And yeah, it's always a long journey whenever we do this stuff. In fact, it's worn Zach out, as you can see over here. He's tired of sitting with me on the couch and watching movies, especially all these animated movies. But, so the last 2 days are going to be, I'd say relatively interesting for some people. I don't know how everybody feels about these movies, but they're some of my favorites, and I have to watch these two. And if you want to say what's the movie that got me into fantasy stuff, it's not necessarily horror. It has a lot of really cool horror aspects to it. I have to admit on this one, it's not 100% horror, but it was delayed because it was too scary for kids at the time. And I always remember it being a little bit different than what we have right now. And this might be one of those, Mandela effect type things from when I was growing up. It could also possibly be, since this is Disney, that it was, edited, and some of the other parts, it was toned down some, because if there's one thing that I don't like about Disney, and there's a lot of things to not like about what Disney does with a lot of their stuff, and I'm not even getting into any of the current stuff because, things, it's that they will edit their stuff and put it back out there, and then you only get the edited stuff. They won't show some of the original stuff. There's things like Song of the South, which they rarely recognize anymore. And they basically kind of want to bury. It's one of the reasons why, and I've talked about this before, why I appreciate WB and them still putting out, for some people, them having to put in front of it, these are old-timey thoughts, and, this is stuff that we, don't necessarily believe anymore, and blah, blah, blah. It does get to some people that, why do you even need to put that in there? But they still put the stuff out. You can still find it. And the thing is that you can still find some of the Disney stuff too. If you look hard enough for it, you can still watch some of that old stuff. But they really want to bury what they did in the past. And even when it comes to it now, again, because I feel like it's a Mandela effect thing for me, that I remember this movie being a lot scarier than it was. And of course, I've spent all this time so far already talking, and what movie is it? You're probably like, you saw the title, so you know what the fucking movie is. But yeah, it's The Black Cauldron. And The Black Cauldron, I think, is a criminally underrated fantasy movie. And at the time, it was critically panned. Some people really liked it. Other people were like, oh, we're used to the Disney charm, and it's too dark, and it's too this, too that. That's why I loved this movie as a kid. I love this movie because it's fucking dark. Not just because the transfer is also dark. It's really hard to watch on a modern TV, especially when I want to see the cool things, the way that the Horn King looks. But it's a relatively dark story, and they didn't try, they tried to lighten it up some, but even the original author was like, it's not the same thing, because it's actually a combination of two books. And pieces from the book. It's not doing the exact story. It changes a lot of the story to fit the narrative that you've got going on here. And in going through the old stuff and trying to, see what the differences are, it's a lot. It's basically, we're taking points from this, we're taking points from that book, and we're going to put it together as one whole story. And to me, it does it well. It's still, I think it's a little uneven as you get towards the conclusion, because what is an hour and 22 minutes going to do you for two fucking books? It's not going to do you a whole lot. They basically put the first book into the first half of the film, and then the general consensus of the second book into the second half of the film, And the main villain from the first book is your villain throughout. So you don't really, and you're also missing characters and other stuff like that. If you've never seen The Black Cauldron before, it's basically about a young kid, and the young kid is a pig farmer, assistant pig farmer, pardon me. And he has this, he's watching this pig, Henwin, and Henwin can, she's like an oracle. She can see things that people can't see. And there's the Horned King. And the Horned King is trying to find the Black Cauldron so that he can raise an army of the dead. That's your basic thing. So he's trying to go after the pig to find out what it is. And Taran gets involved in this whole situation. He meets, the Princess Elwyn. And then he also meets Gurgi, who's a little coward of an animal. And is the film's comic relief to an extent, cute comic relief. And he also meets a bard who I always forget exactly how to say it. It's like Florborg or some shit like that. I know it's not, but I just keep thinking about Flula Borg, the comedian. Keep thinking about him every time I see him and see the name. But they all meet in the castle and everything, it's about them getting the cauldron and learning about themselves and journey discovery, blah, 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 blah. The scary parts, of course, are all the Horned King. And the animation in this movie is absolutely beautiful. This is like peak, Disney classic animation. This was released in 85. It was ready in 81, but from test audiences with kids, because it was too scary, they axed it for a while. They did some edits and they brought it back out, in which get in 85. And I still think that it's missing some key pieces. And like, it took forever to get to home video too, once it was done. Like, I think it was like late 80s, early 90s that you finally got this thing on video. And my ex actually bought me a sealed copy of this movie on video, which if you've ever watched my Twitch streams, it hangs out in the background behind me. And I unabashedly love this movie. This is probably could be my favorite Disney like animated movie, not CGI, not Pixar. And it's just because of how dark it is. And I used to have, I don't remember, guys, like this gonna show my age for this whole thing, but I used to have one of those books where it had the accompanying tape with it so that you could read the book, and then for certain things it would have you play the tape, and then you play the tape so that you could hear certain parts of it. And I would never really play the tape, one, because I think eventually I lost it, two, I just love the imagery of this movie. I love the way the Horned King looks. I love the way the characters work. I fucking love Gurgi with his munchies and crunchies. Like everything. And I never had the video of this. I just remember going to the theater and seeing it. I remember seeing like little clips of it here or there, but that book is what really kept everything like alive for me with this movie. And eventually I saw it again, and then like things like, oh, I remember certain parts, and maybe part of it is because maybe in the book it's a little more because it's not animated. They did a little bit extra, but like when he raises the army of the dead, it's like one of the coolest little scenes, but it feels so short. Like I feel like that was longer and they did more with it, and I could be completely wrong, but I'll never really know because I know they released like a 25th anniversary version of this movie that has deleted scenes. It has an unanimated deleted scene, but if I remember correctly, it has nothing to do with the Army of the Dead or anything like that, and is Cauldron Born, as they're called in the film. But it is, the Horned King is frightening. And John Hurt does a fucking marvelous job doing the voice for the Horned King. And when he first enters, like you first get like the full view of him, it's absolutely amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. And even from little small jump scares from dogs to rats to all those little things, like it can be, I could see why it would be intense for kids. But if this is 1985, I'm a youngin', and I know this is one of those movies that I beg my parents to let me see or watch at some point. And I don't remember when I did. I don't remember if we went to the theater, and because I would have been so young that if we did go to the theater, no way that I would have remembered half the shit. And so like seeing it again, but it's always so vivid to me in everything in this movie and the way that it's done. First Disney movie to utilize some CGI to help some scenes. And you can tell in the scene where the dragon-like wyvern things are coming to get Henwin. That definitely has some CGI boost to it, and it still looks beautiful today. Again, things like hand-drawn animation, practical effects, they're never going to get old in the way that they look. Yeah, okay, so a little bit of it may be old-timey, but it doesn't look off like old school CGI does. Like, even if you go back to Toy Story looks a little odd today. It's Pixar, so it's better, but compared to current CGI, where like they have individual hair follicles and shit like that, it's different. But these types of movies are going to stand the test of time more than a CGI. Now, I'm not saying the story won't, right? The story of Toy Story for many will stand the test of time, but the animation, I personally don't believe that it will. More modern stuff, maybe within the last 5, maybe even 10 years, some of that stuff, it definitely will hold up. And that's going to be the case in tomorrow when we get to the last film of the month. But, you know, if you want, I figured that we're doing 2 types of final animation films. And I wanted to do something was darker, but still like, you know, relatively kid-friendly, in my opinion. Disney Plus, it's available there. There's no blood or violence or anything like that. It's just a scary ass villain, which and I know that in Japan they actually had him as part of an attraction for a long time, and I wish I could have seen that, because that would have made my day. Yeah, this is definitely, you know, one of my favorites. Does it hit the echelon in that? I have to say no. It doesn't do the 5 out of 5, which is, would you say it's one of your favorites? Why wouldn't it be a 5 out of 5? Because it does get jumbled towards the end. Like, it really does. And so this is a standard 4 out of 5 Munchies and Crunchies, but it's highly recommended. You guys should see this movie if you get the chance to. And you know, if you have seen it, let me know your thoughts. Like, you know, if it's not for you, it's not for you. But, you know, this is a staple of my childhood. This is a staple movie for why I like what I like. And that's why it always will have a special place in my heart. So, last film, tomorrow, hands down, my favorite Pixar Disney property thing ever. And it technically, if you really think about it, it's not necessarily for Halloween, but we're at the end of the month, and what it celebrates is coming up. And I don't do 32 and 31. I do 31 and 31. So get ready to celebrate. And we'll see you tomorrow. And if you know what the film is, you know what the film is. So thank you guys for checking it out. And we'll see you on the final day tomorrow. All right. Take care, guys.